So we talked about the Chinese in the beginning. We talked about how they have the most to benefit, how the elites have the most to benefit. The Davos crowd, the Great Reset crowd, the Joe Bidens, the Nancy Pelosi's, the wealthy elites that seem to be pulling the puppet strings. We asked, is this by design? Is this a coincidence? With all these people benefiting, and this bizarre world we find ourselves in, this unrecognizable, bizarre, alternate timeline that we all seem to be living through. We've seen how they've infiltrated Hollywood, the mainstream media, how they've infiltrated our schools, how they've infiltrated everywhere, our elected officials. And then a virus all of a sudden is released, the world goes crazy, and China's credibility, their credibility skyrockets, while America disintegrates. So who has the most to benefit? Who has the most to benefit? I say it's China. I say it's China. I say this really feels like it's by design. I told you we were going to talk about this mom that's going to read what the school was putting out to her son, her 10-year-old son. That's part of this. Whoever is benefiting from this had a hand in programming our kids. We know that Common Core, that our public school systems, they were designed by Bill Ayers, they were endorsed by Obama, they were changed, they were filled for years now, decades now. They've been filled with Marxism, with anti-Semitism, with hate for America, with hate for our culture, and with the seeds of classism to help destroy the brotherhood and sisterhood of this country. Our school system's been filled with it. And now the left is so brazen. They infect our schools with filth. And they expect parents to be so locked into their cell phones, so locked into their own little worlds, they're not paying attention to their school, their kids' school. So they're not going to notice the filth, the absolute disgust that's being trained into our children's minds. We wonder why there's an epidemic out there, a pandemic out there, right? A pandemic of transgenderism, a pandemic of wokeism, a pandemic of destruction of the nuclear family, of roles. And it's 2021. When I say roles, anybody can be in a role, but we need to have marriages. We need to have things that are done correctly, right? You can have a mom and a dad, and the dad can stay home and take care of the kids, and the mom can bring home the bacon. Who cares? But there has to be some way that a husband and wife can work together to better their family. But instead, these values that have been taught through our school system, they're meant to destroy our families. They're meant to destroy our families. I don't care what you think of me, but it is the truth. It is the truth. We sucked each other's beeps. I'm not going to say it. I'm trying to clean up my language. Like I said in the beginning of this, I'm working on getting on AM radio stations so we can get more affiliates and more exposure and get past the censorship. If we can't beat them through the internet, let's do it the old school way. So we got to clean up the cursing a little bit, but that doesn't mean we're not going to be hard hitting. We sucked each other's beeps. Mother reads sexually explicit school book to board members. This is from the Gateway Pundit by Jordan Conradson. Guys, this is literally what's happening in schools across this country, and brave mothers and fathers are standing up and fighting, but we're not winning everywhere. And you have to hear this. It's absolutely psychotic. It's absolutely psychotic and stunning that it would even be a thing. But it is a thing. It's absolutely real, and it's going to blow your mind. A concerned mother brought a book, a school book, to her school board to address the sexual harassment and vulgar language that is being pushed on her children. There's the mom right there. Nice lady, right? Reading off this paper. This specific book references 10-year-old fourth graders engaging in homosexual actions and using language like, quote, his little salamander between my 4th grade fingers, rapidly engorging with blood, end quote. Her children might be a little older, and the book itself is underage. It's about young kids. That's still very sick. It used the F word, 44 times, and the S word 41 times before page 66, according to the mom. Now, we're adults. We don't care about these F-bombs and S-bombs. But when you're teaching young people about it, there is a problem. I don't think it builds discipline. I don't think it builds normal relationships. I don't think it's helpful in the upbringing of kids to flood them with material full of cursing. It happens, right? We're all human. We all curse in front of our kids once in a while, right? Things slip. Not everybody's perfect. Look, some people slack, right? But we all try. At least some of us try, right? I try. You try to not get upset when we maybe bang our finger, right? Or a bill comes in that's really expensive. Shit. Oops. You know what I mean. You try not to say it, but it happens. But 44 times, right? 44 times for the F-bomb, 41 times for the S-bomb. This is my son, Cameron. This is what she says. He attends Leander High School. Okay, so her son is in high school. Her son's in high school. I'm going to have people that don't sit through this whole podcast that know a little more of this story, and then they send me angry emails. They say, you said his son was a 10-year-old, and now it turns out that he's in high. Look, it happens. It absolutely happens. It's still bad. Why would you want your son in high school reading about 4th graders doing these dirty deeds? Let's talk about this. This is my son, Cameron. He attends Leander High School, and I'm going to explain to you the book that he received. But Mr. McKay, I pray you are a man of your word. Last week, I asked my children if I could check the books that they've picked up from the school. My son picked up this brand new book from the shelves in class, Lawn Boy. He was under the impression it was about a kid that ends up with a gig mowing the grass at Disneyland. I hope it's not a terrorist Disneyland like we talked about in the beginning of this episode. I'd like to share a few quotes with you. On page 19, quote, not that it really matters. In 4th grade, at a church youth group meeting out in the bushes, I touched Doug Goebel's D, and he touched mine. In fact, there was even some mouths involved. Next one, page 91. What if I told you I touched another guy's D? What if I told you I sucked it? I was 10 years old, but it's true. I put Doug Goebel's D in my mouth. I was in 4th grade. It was no big deal. He sucked mine too. And you know what? It wasn't terrible. Page 174. He talked about all times at the church, but never mentioned our penises or the fact that he never had 10 words to me after our little foray in the bushes. Not a single reference to holding or tugging or sucking of D's. All I could think about while he was chatting me up was his little salamander between my 4th grade fingers, rapidly engorging with blood. Page 230. Why won't you admit we suck each other's D's? We shared a Hershey's bar. Then you showed me your D. The next thing I know, it's in my mouth. We sucked each other's D's and you're pretending it didn't happen. What sort of diversity are you intending to teach my child with material like this? In addition, I'll share with you the exceptional quality of vocabulary. I stopped counting on page 66 after 44 F-bombs and 41 S-bombs. The depravity of the content on the shelves in our schools cannot be mitigated with policy. At this point, I need you to know that according to Policy FH, local sexual harassment is defined as unwanted sexual advances, sexually motivated verbal, nonverbal conduct, or other conduct or communication of a sexual nature. When the conduct is so severe, persistent, or pervasive that it affects a student's ability to participate in or benefit from an educational program or activity, or otherwise adversely affects a student's educational opportunities or creates an intimidating, hostile educational environment, what sort of educational environment do you think the plethora of sexually graphic books sexually graphic book selections create for my children or for any child for that matter. I won't go into my 4th grade daughter, but we don't. This is not a thing for 4th graders. Who normalizes sex acts between 4th graders? I'll tell you who. Pedophiles. So it's fortuitous that you invited the Leander Police Department to visit tonight so we can talk about it. And then the board member passed on and said, all right, we have speaker number 23. They moved past it. Do you know what this content does? This content is made to normalize homosexuality in young people. Now, here's the thing. If somebody is a homosexual or somebody wants to be in the transgender community, I try to make that not my business, right? I try to do the best thing and make that not my business. But you can't push that culture onto young people. Let them make that decision later. Let them make that decision later. That's my belief on it. I know there are some young people out there that feel it and they've always felt it. And look, I went to high school and you knew who was a homosexual in the LGBT community, and they didn't know it yet. Let's just say that. You knew it. Everybody knew they were a homosexual. They themselves, they did not know yet. So look, I get it. People out there exist, but it's not everybody. This gigantic uptick, all right, in people in the LGBT community. And I'm convinced that there are plenty of people in the LGBT community that just want to live a life and be left alone and do their thing. And then there's like a militant side, this trans young militant side that seems to almost be attacking the LGBT community itself to force it to become more radicalized. Those folks, in conjunction with our school systems, they are literally normalizing and teaching not just that it's a part of our society, but that it's more positive to be a part of that group than to just be a regular, heterosexual, male, female. You can't say that there are two genders. I'll say it, there are two genders, but in the schools, they are teaching something different. And it's all part of the brainwashing. It's all part of the indoctrination. It's all part of making citizens that are good little compliant cowards. Cowards. I was going to use the B word, but cowards. That's what they are. They're cucks. They're submissive, and they want just these effeminate left-wing people that just do what they're told so that the elites of the world can have their great reset. China can rule, and the rich stay rich. The poor stay poor. The world is changed. And, basically the crown gets to stay on the heads of the elites forever.